Welcome, wisdom seekers. There's a certain kind of power that exists in the quiet space of a man who knows how to walk away. It's not about anger, nor is it about arrogance. It's about the deep calm that comes from understanding that some battles are won by not engaging, that some attachments are meant to be severed, and that sometimes the true test of a man is not in how fiercely he holds on, but in how gracefully he lets go. What does it mean to be cold? In the realm of Stoic philosophy, being cold is not about lacking emotion. Rather, it is about mastering one's emotions. The Stoics believed in approaching life with equanimity, an unshakable calmness in the face of all things. To walk away, to sever ties, and to step back requires more strength than most people realize. It requires habits that are formed from a place of internal clarity, of a mind that knows the value of peace over chaos and purpose over distraction. Today, we dive deep into these habits, 10 of them to be precise. 10 principles that, when embraced, allow you to cultivate a demeanor that is cold, yet not heartless, firm, yet not stubborn, detached, yet not indifferent. These are the habits that separate men who wander from men who walk away. Let's begin. Habit 1. Detach from outcomes. To be truly cold and to walk away with strength, one must master the art of detaching from outcomes. What does this mean exactly? It is the ability to act without being bound to the fruits of your actions. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we should concern ourselves only with the things that are within our control and let go of everything else. What is outside our control are other people's opinions, the success or failure of our endeavors, and even our own reputations. Detaching from outcomes doesn't mean you don't care about success or failure. It means that you do not base your sense of self-worth on the results. You put in the effort because effort is within your control. But once you've given your best, you step back. The mindset of detaching from outcomes allows you to walk away with grace because you know that your sense of self isn't tied to the approval of others or the attainment of external goals. When you don't need validation, your actions are purer, and you are less likely to cling to things that aren't serving you. This detachment is not indifference. It is an acceptance of reality. The cold man understands that the world will not always bend to his will, and he does not waste energy trying to force it to. He knows that failure and success are merely two sides of the same coin. Both are transient, both are teachers, but neither defines him. Cultivating this habit requires constant self-reflection. It is easy to say, "I don't care what others think," but much harder to live it when faced with criticism or the prospect of failure. Practice separating your actions from the results. Make decisions based on principles, not outcomes. When you find yourself worrying about what others will think or whether you will succeed, pause and remind yourself that you control only your effort, your mindset, and your response. A cold man walking away is not someone who never tries, but someone who knows when his effort is enough and when to let go. He is a man who plants seeds but does not obsess over the harvest. Embrace this habit, and you will find that many of life's burdens fall away. You will no longer be shackled by the chains of expectations, because you will know that regardless of the outcome, you remain the same. Habit 2. Prioritize solitude. In a world that is obsessed with connection, the ability to prioritize solitude is a rare and powerful habit. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the state of being alone without feeling alone. It is in solitude that a man discovers who he truly is, unfiltered by the expectations of society, unbound by the opinions of others. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." To walk away and remain cold in the face of societal pressures, one must be comfortable with standing alone. In solitude, a man refines his thoughts, solidifies his principles, and becomes unyielding in his values. He knows that the crowd will often steer him toward paths of least resistance, paths that prioritize comfort over growth. In solitude, you find the space to question your motives. Are you pursuing this career because it aligns with your deepest values, or because society tells you it's prestigious? Are you clinging to this relationship because you fear being alone, or because it truly nurtures your spirit? In the quiet, these questions find honest answers. Cultivating the habit of solitude doesn't mean retreating into a cave and shunning human contact. It means carving out time, regularly and intentionally, to be alone with your thoughts. It means resisting the urge to fill every quiet moment with noise, to always seek distraction in technology or conversation. Allow the discomfort of silence to envelop you, and you will find that, over time, it becomes a source of strength. The cold man does not fear solitude. He welcomes it as a necessary part of his journey. In solitude, he recalibrates his mind and refines his character. When he returns to the world, he is not swayed by the masses. He walks a path that is his own, guided by principles that he has tested in the furnace of self-reflection. To be cold and walk away, learn to cherish your own company. In solitude, you will find an ally who will never betray you, yourself. Habit 3. Master your emotional responses. To be cold is not to lack emotion, but to master it. This is the essence of emotional control. The Stoics understood that emotions are not inherently bad. They are natural responses to external events. What matters is not that we experience emotions, but how we choose to respond to them. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, emphasized that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This highlights the importance of mastering emotional responses. Much of our pain is self-inflicted, a result of letting our emotions run wild, unchecked, and unexamined. A man who can master his emotions is not cold because he lacks feeling. He is cold because he does not allow his feelings to dictate his actions. To cultivate this habit, practice observing your emotions rather than being swept away by them. When anger arises, step back and question its source. Is it truly justified, or is it a reaction to a bruised ego? When sadness creeps in, recognize it, but do not let it consume your identity. Understand that emotions are signals. They tell you something is worth paying attention to, but they do not dictate your response. This is where the coldness comes in. It is the ability to acknowledge your emotions without being ruled by them. To walk away when the situation demands it, even if your heart tells you to stay. This coldness is not cruelty, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that to be led by emotions is to be led by chaos, and that a man who masters himself will not be mastered by circumstances. Habit 4. Embrace discomfort. The path to becoming cold and unyielding is paved with discomfort. It is in discomfort that true growth occurs. When you embrace discomfort, you strip away the illusions of safety and step into a world where you can confront your limitations, weaknesses, and fears. This is where resilience is forged, where strength is tested, and where resolve is solidified. The ancient Stoics taught the concept of voluntary discomfort, intentionally exposing oneself to hardship as a means of strengthening the mind. Seneca would sleep on a hard bed and eat coarse bread, not because he was impoverished, but because he understood that to live a truly free life, one must not be dependent on comfort. By experiencing discomfort willingly, he was training himself to be unperturbed by life's inevitable challenges. The modern world lulls us into complacency with its conveniences and comforts. We are rarely challenged to step outside our comfort zones, and as a result, we become mentally soft and emotionally fragile. To be a man who is cold and capable of walking away, you must be willing to strip away these comforts. You must seek out the uncomfortable, not for the sake of suffering, but for the sake of growth. Embrace physical discomfort by pushing your body beyond its limits in exercise. Experience the cold, the heat, and the strain of physical exertion. These experiences remind you of your resilience and reveal the true limits of your capabilities, often much further than you had previously imagined. Embrace mental discomfort by challenging your beliefs, questioning your assumptions, and exposing yourself to new ideas that may unsettle your worldview. The more you challenge your mind, the stronger it becomes. It is not enough to read philosophy or to discuss abstract ideas. You must live them, internalize them, and confront the discomfort that arises from truly thinking for yourself. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your teacher. When you train yourself to see it as an ally, you will find that the world's attempts to disturb your peace lose their power. The more you expose yourself to discomfort voluntarily, the less likely you are to be shaken by the involuntary discomforts that life will inevitably throw your way. A man who has embraced discomfort can walk away from situations, relationships, and pursuits without hesitation because he is not enslaved by the need for comfort or security. He is free, and in that freedom lies his coldness. It is not a coldness born of indifference, but a coldness born of self-mastery. Habit 5. Cultivate a Stoic mindset. To be cold and walk away requires a mindset that is deeply rooted in Stoic principles. A Stoic mindset does not arise from a single book or philosophical conversation. It is cultivated over time through practice, reflection, and a commitment to living with virtue and reason. It is about viewing the world as it is, rather than how you wish it to be, and finding tranquility in that acceptance. The Stoics believe that there are things within our control and things outside of our control. A Stoic mindset involves focusing exclusively on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions. Everything else, the opinions of others, the outcomes of your efforts, the whims of fortune, is outside of your influence and therefore not worth your concern. Imagine yourself in a situation where a relationship has soured or a career path has become unfulfilling. The non-Stoic will cling desperately, hoping to change the unchangeable or to bend reality to their will. The Stoic, however, will recognize that while he cannot control the other person's actions or the company's decisions, he can control his response. He can choose to walk away, to cut ties without bitterness or resentment, because he understands that holding on would only be an act of futility. To cultivate a Stoic mindset, practice seeing events as neutral. It is not the event itself that causes you suffering, but the judgment you place upon it. If you lose a job, it is not inherently a tragedy or a relief. It is simply an event. Your mind assigns the value to that event, and by recognizing this, you gain power over your emotions. The same is true for relationships, social status, and material possessions. They hold only the value that you assign to them. This habit also involves regular reflection, taking time each day to review your actions, thoughts, and behaviors. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, practiced this daily through his writings, which became the foundation for his famous meditations. He would reflect on his day, considering how he could have acted more virtuously, how he had allowed emotions to influence his decisions, and how he could improve tomorrow. This practice kept his mind sharp and his soul steady. By cultivating a Stoic mindset, you can walk away from anything that no longer serves you, because you understand that your peace of mind is the most valuable possession you have. The coldness with which you move through the world is not callousness, but clarity. Habit 6. Refrain from excessive attachments. One of the greatest traps that entangles men is excessive attachment. Attachment to people, possessions, and even ideas. The Buddha famously taught that attachment is the root of all suffering. While Buddhism and Stoicism are different in many respects, on this point, they converge. To be truly free and to walk away with strength, you must learn to refrain from becoming excessively attached. Attachments bind you. They create dependency and fear, as you begin to believe that you cannot be happy or fulfilled without the object of your attachment. Whether it's a relationship, a career, or a material possession, the more you cling, the more you become a prisoner to your desires. A man who is cold does not allow himself to be shackled by such chains. He enjoys what life brings his way, but he does not depend on it for his sense of self. The Stoics advocated for amor fati, the love of fate. This means embracing life as it is, with all its unpredictability and loss. The person who lives with amor fati finds beauty in the transient nature of things. He enjoys love, friendship, and success when they come his way, but he does not grieve their loss because he understands that nothing is permanent. He sees life as a flowing river, where experiences come and go like waves. To refrain from excessive attachment, practice gratitude for the present moment without clinging to it. Enjoy a friendship without fearing its end. Pursue goals with passion but without desperation. Own possessions, but do not let them own you. This way of living will make you impervious to life's fluctuations, and you will find that you can walk away from anything that no longer serves you without hesitation. The practice of refraining from attachment extends beyond people and things. It also involves letting go of rigid beliefs and opinions. When you are overly attached to your own ideas, you become closed-minded and resistant to growth. A cold man knows that to walk away sometimes means abandoning old beliefs that no longer align with his evolved understanding of the world. When you release attachments, you free yourself. You gain the ability to walk through life unburdened, ready to move forward at any moment, without being held back by fear or longing. In this state of mind, your coldness is not a lack of warmth, but the presence of strength. Habit 7. Keep your word to yourself. There is a quiet power in the man who keeps his word, especially the word he gives to himself. In a world where people break promises easily, a man who follows through on his commitments, even those made in solitude, possesses a strength that few others do. It is not just about being reliable to others, but about being reliable to yourself. When you set goals, establish routines, or make decisions about who you want to become, the promises you make to yourself are sacred. Keeping your word to yourself means that you follow through on your commitments, even when no one else is watching. It is a habit that strengthens your character and cultivates an inner fortitude that allows you to walk away from anything that conflicts with your values. The philosopher Aristotle wrote that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. If you habitually keep your promises to yourself, you are training your mind to respect your own standards. This internal consistency builds self-trust and ensures that you do not waver when faced with difficult decisions. When it's time to walk away, you do so because you have already trained yourself to honor what is right for you, rather than what is easy or comfortable. To develop this habit, start with small commitments. Make promises to yourself that are achievable, such as waking up at a certain time, completing a daily task, or practicing a skill for a set amount of time. Each time you fulfill a promise, you build momentum, and as your self-discipline strengthens, you can apply it to larger areas of life. A man who keeps his word to himself has no need to seek validation from others. He walks away from situations that compromise his integrity because he knows that his loyalty to himself outweighs any external obligation. In this sense, his coldness is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of his own principles. Habit 8. Embrace silence over words. There is a quiet wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. In a world where people often talk merely for the sake of talking, a man who embraces silence cultivates a sense of mystery and power. To be cold is to understand that words, once spoken, can never be taken back, and that there is strength in letting others wonder what you are thinking. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Silence allows you to observe, to understand, and to control the flow of interactions. It gives you the opportunity to think deeply before responding, rather than reacting impulsively. When you speak only when necessary, your words carry weight and meaning. They are not lost in the noise of empty chatter. To develop the habit of embracing silence, practice pausing before you respond in conversations. Consider whether what you are about to say adds value or is merely filling space. Ask yourself if silence might be a more powerful response than words. You will find that often, silence unsettles people more than any spoken retort. It forces them to reflect on their own words and assumptions, and it can shift the power dynamic in any interaction. Embracing silence is not about being cold in a distant or dismissive way. It is about reserving your energy for what truly matters. It allows you to detach from trivialities and avoid getting caught up in conflicts that drain your mental and emotional resources. When you choose silence over words, you demonstrate that your thoughts are your own, and not everything you think needs to be shared. This habit cultivates an aura of self-control and impenetrability. In the heat of an argument or during a disagreement, the man who can remain calm and silent is often the one who emerges victorious. Not because he has outwitted his opponent, but because he has refused to be dragged into a battle of egos. Walking away from a verbal exchange without saying a word shows that you are not governed by the need to prove yourself. It is a demonstration of inner strength and unshakable resolve. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It is a presence. It is the mark of a man who has nothing to prove to anyone but himself. Habit 9. Develop an indifference to praise and criticism. To walk away coldly and with poise, you must cultivate an indifference to both praise and criticism. These are 2 sides of the same coin. Both are judgments made by others, and if you allow them to dictate your state of mind, you surrender your power. A man who is easily swayed by praise will also be vulnerable to the sting of criticism. To be truly free, you must learn to detach from both. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This insight reveals the paradox at the heart of human behavior. We crave validation from others, even as we recognize our own worth. But the moment you give power to external opinions, you become a slave to them. The habit of indifference to praise and criticism is about reclaiming your autonomy. The Stoic approach to this habit involves recognizing that other people's opinions are outside your control. What is within your control is your own judgment and the values by which you live. If you are acting in accordance with your principles, then praise does not make you better, nor does criticism make you worse. You remain the same regardless, because your worth is not measured by the approval of others. To practice this, start by observing how praise and criticism affect your mood. When someone compliments you, notice how you feel and remind yourself that your value is not tied to that compliment. When someone criticizes you, consider whether there is any truth in their words. If there is, use it as feedback for self-improvement. If not, let it go as irrelevant noise. In either case, do not let your inner equilibrium be disturbed by external evaluations. This habit is particularly valuable in relationships, where the opinions of others can weigh heavily on your decisions. If you can walk away from praise and criticism, you can walk away from relationships and situations that are not aligned with your deeper values. You will no longer be trapped in the cycle of seeking approval or avoiding disapproval. The coldness here is not a lack of feeling. It is a demonstration of self-respect. It shows that you are guided by your own compass, not by the shifting winds of public opinion. Habit 10. Practice radical honesty with yourself. To master the art of walking away coldly, you must first be brutally honest with yourself. Self-deception is one of the greatest barriers to true freedom, and without honesty, you will never fully understand why you hold on to certain things. Radical honesty involves confronting the uncomfortable truths about yourself, your motivations, your weaknesses, and your fears. Socrates famously declared, "Know thyself." This phrase is not an invitation to self-indulgence, but a challenge to examine your life with a critical eye. If you wish to walk away with conviction, you must understand why you are leaving in the first place. Are you walking away from something that no longer serves you, or are you fleeing from a difficult situation out of fear? The difference is profound, and only by being honest with yourself can you discern it. Radical honesty requires looking at your desires without judgment. If you are staying in a relationship because you fear being alone, acknowledge that. If you are working a job solely for the paycheck, admit that to yourself. The point is not to condemn yourself for these motives, but to see them clearly for what they are. Once you recognize the truth, you can make choices based on reality rather than illusions. This habit also extends to how you deal with failure and success. Be honest about your strengths, but also about your shortcomings. When you fail, don't sugarcoat it or blame external factors. Own it. This level of self-awareness will allow you to make better decisions moving forward. When you succeed, don't let it inflate your ego or blind you to areas where you still need growth. By practicing radical honesty, you develop a deeper relationship with yourself, one that is not based on pretense or self-delusion. It allows you to be more decisive when walking away from things that do not align with your values, because you are not lying to yourself about what you truly want or need. The coldness that others perceive is not a lack of compassion. It is the result of a man who knows himself and does not need external validation to justify his choices. Embrace radical honesty, and you will find that walking away becomes not an act of rejection, but an act of self-affirmation. These 10 habits collectively form the foundation of a mindset that allows a man to walk away from situations, relationships, or pursuits with a sense of calm and strength. The coldness that emerges from these practices is not born of cruelty or indifference, but from a deep understanding of what truly matters and a commitment to living life on your own terms. The power to walk away is not about abandoning people or things for the sake of it. It is about knowing when something no longer aligns with your values or contributes to your growth. It is about having the strength to let go, the wisdom to detach, and the courage to move forward without looking back. For the wisdom seekers out there, I leave you with a final thought. The ability to walk away is not a gift you are born with, but a skill you develop. It is forged in the fires of discipline, honed through the trials of life, and refined by the philosophy you choose to live by. In a world that constantly tries to bind you with expectations and obligations, the man who can walk away is the man who is truly free.